What up, everyone? I'm SteveVon Lamar, and this is my beautiful wife,
Britt Tashay.
And we want to welcome you to the SteveVon and Britt Unfiltered podcast. And we want you to know we're not experts, but we share our unfiltered experiences in life, love, and everything in between.
So be sure to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on any podcast platforms.
So check out the show notes for everything you need for this episode of the podcast.
All right, so let's get right into it. It is our very first podcast ever.
Number one.
Welcome you guys to our very first podcast, season 1, episode 1.
Wow.
Yes, so exciting. Just like when you start a new series, it's like that excitement.
Yeah, you don't know where it's going to go, but you know it's going to go, right?
It's going to go. It's going to be good. And I just kind of wanted us to take a moment and just share our why behind the podcast and why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Like we said in our intro, we want to kind of share our life and our love and our experience in between all of that. And we do have a YouTube channel where most of you guys probably are listening from and have been directed here from,
right?
Where we share our journey to try to have a baby,
yes,
try to get pregnant. Yes, our TTC, trying to conceive journey.
Yes.
And we get to show a little bit of behind the scenes of our life for people who do not, know about our YouTube channel. Maybe you're just hearing our podcast. But we felt like we wanted to show another unfiltered side of us. These are like conversations we have all the time about everything.
And anything.
And anything. And so we wanted to sit down and invite you guys into our
space, right?
Our space.
Welcome you to the table.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's the heart behind it. Welcome you in. And we also want you to have a voice in our podcast as well. So we will have spaces where you can leave us messages and voice notes and all of that so we can hear your questions and what you want us to talk about. So yeah, we're super excited about this new journey of podcasting. What do you think, babe?
Like how we started on our, YouTube channel. Like, I'm just taking the journey with you. And like when we talked about it 5-6 years ago, I was like, I guess so. But I'm more confident in this one. I definitely believe we have some conversations, some things we can bring to the table that the good, bad, the ugly, that can help others as it has helped us through our process and journey in life. And, love and all of that in between, like you said. So.
And that's why it's unfiltered, because it's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything. So with that being said, I kind of want to introduce everybody to how we will kind of run down our episodes. So we'll have several segments, or a couple rather different segments. So we will have a segment. Our first segment will be called Sips Tea. I know y'all have heard of that saying, especially if you're a millennial like us.
Tea time.
Tea time. So that's where we will sit down and spill tea on some important, relevant, trendy pop culture, things that are going on in the world today. We'll kind of sit and talk about a dialogue from our perspective. And then the last segment that we'll do is called Pillow Talk. Babe, why don't you talk about this? Yeah, because you kind of came up with the name of this one, so why don't you share?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's, pillow talk is usually when you're more vulnerable, you're more intimate, you're more available. And I want to share a moment or a piece of our segment where we talk about something that may not be, talked about from either a woman's side or a guy's side point of view, or just in general with relationships. And so it's gonna get really real from sip tea to pillow talk.
And the pillow talk is the meat and potatoes of our episode. It's going to be where we dialogue about it all. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to jump into our Sips Tea segment for today. At the time of this recording of this podcast, today is actually 2/2/2/2.
And it's Tuesday, so this is deemed Tuesday.
It's literally Tuesday. Like,
wow.
The date on the calendar and twos have taken over the day. So February 22nd, 2022.
And I heard that like legit, like this won't happen for another 400 years. So you won't see this again.
Yeah.
If you do, God bless you, because you'll be 400
we won't
plus
be
years.
No, but I wanted to share a little bit like fun facts. I think it was important for us to film this today and start our first podcast on a day like today, because it's just so much special meaning with the number 2 and 2 becoming 1, as you know, we know in the Bible. But having this day just felt so special to press record. And y'all, we fought through it all to press record.
I even asked God today, do you want us to do this at this point?
No, for real, y'all. Y'all don't understand.
Sometimes you just got to ask God.
And maybe we'll podcast about that too. Like, because I was telling SteveVon right before we press record, like, a lot of times when we face like opposition, we're like, is it God telling me no, I shouldn't do this? Or is it the enemy trying to block me from doing it?
And we really usually land on, I feel like it means that God is telling us to do it, just because we're getting blocked a little bit.
So we don't know what it is, but either way, today is a special day.
Yes,
so it's Tuesday, and I want to share a couple fun facts about it. So as you said, it won't happen for another 400 years, but in numerology, the sequence of 2s is often referred to as an angel number. Also, the number 2 is in reference to duality, partnership, relationship, and balance.
Yeah,
I thought that was so perfect for us launching a podcast about relationships in life, right? Like, it's like, oh my gosh, that was the sign I guess we needed from God.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the time to do it now. So yeah, that was pretty fun. Another thing is when 2 is in a sequence like this, where it's doubled, tripled, whatever, the energy is supercharged. I don't know. I'm like, we both are like Big Sean. Yeah. Energy is the first language that we speak.
And if you don't believe it, just walk into a room with some terrible energy.
Yeah, you can feel it. So
walk into a room with good energy and you feel it. Hopefully you're feeling it right now while you're watching and also listening on this podcast.
Yes, for sure. So, I thought that was all just so amazing for what today is and what it represents for us today, starting out this podcast. And I hope today when you went through this 222, but now as you're listening, we just gonna press reset on the 222 energy as you listen, and just kind of put that out there, that it's a day of balance. It's a day of compassion, acceptance, cooperation, harmony. All those things are coming to you. So with that being said, let's go into our next segment.
Pillow talk.
So we
should whisper the whole time for the pillow talk.
That's like ASMR, right. But so with pillow talk, the meat and potatoes, if you looked at the podcast title for today, it actually is If We Knew Then What We Know Now. And we're talking all about lessons in getting married young. So we want to share our story with y'all, because you're probably like, who are you guys? Even on our YouTube channel, they don't really know our backstory to how we got together and how this our origin story, I like to say. If we look at we love Marvel.
Core story.
So like your origin story of how we began. So for those of you who don't know, we started young in this.
Man, babies. We don't have a picture behind us, but there's one beside me that says engaged and underage. We met each other at super young age in Bible college, in a Christian college in Ohio. And shout out to all my Valor Christian College students. But we met there like how long ago? I mean, we've been together for like 17 years. I know we still look like babies.
Yeah.
But we were young. I was 17 when I went there. Met Brittany when I was 18. She came the following year, and you was young, and I knew knew the school a little bit, and so I was like, hey, try to connect with you. And I met her at a concession stand.
Concession stand. Let's tell the story. Let's go ahead and tell the story.
These are my concessions.
We are storytellers. We love telling stories. We're both creative. And so let's go ahead and just share the story from our perspectives of like how we met. We were as he said, in Bible college. I was coming in off of, I was 17, sorry. I was 17 years old, obviously off my senior year, straight into college. At the time I had a boyfriend. Let's go ahead and keep it. Let's just keep it all the way. It's unfiltered, right? It's unfiltered. Let's just keep it a buck. And so I had a boyfriend at the time, and I don't know, like I knew when I left for school that it wasn't gonna be good. Like for our relationship, I knew we would break up. Like I knew he was gonna cheat. I knew it wouldn't last because the foundation of the relationship just wasn't built on the right things. And maybe we'll do a podcast about that. But, but yeah, I knew like, okay, this is not most likely going to work, but we'll see. Cause I didn't feel like I needed to break up, even though, you know how you have that feeling, like the energy or the feeling inside of you is just off. Yeah. And I felt that, but I was like, whatever, you know, we're in this relationship and dating a little bit of time at that point. So let's just go ahead and keep it going. Yeah. So I came to Bible college my first year there. I didn't know a soul that was there. I had only visited one time for an event they called College Days. And it was a preview of the school.
Lit. College Days was lit. I ain't gonna lie.
Yep. So I got a little preview. And my very first College Days was your first year. Yep. And I didn't know, of course. I had no idea. But I just felt like, okay, I was supposed to be at the school. My dad showed me something on TVN or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. I had literally, y'all, I wasn't checking for Bible college at all. I thought, you know, I'm from Detroit. If you see our maps in the back of us, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I thought I would go to U of M or Eastern where my mom went. And I was like, I'm going to regular school, going to get a good job and be good, you know. And my dad said, no, I want you to go to this, you know, Christian school or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll check it out. Matter of fact, I said no. And he was like, I want you to go check it out.
You didn't tell me. You said no?
I said no. I was like,
I don't think I remember that. This is unfiltered
for me. Is this
new
news to you?
New news to me. I guess it's pillow talk.
Yeah. So what happened was he told me to go and check out preview. They call it preview weekend now, but College Days, to get a view of what it would be like to be a student there. And so I said, okay, I agree to check it out, but I'm not making any promises that I'm making this my school. Right. And so I went to College Days, and it was amazing. Just seeing other young people around my age, a little older, that were like on fire for God and just like on the same type of vibe I was on at the time. Yeah. It was encouraging, and I was like, okay, I think I could do this. And I felt like I literally signed the application at the, you know how they do at the end of the service, they pass out those applications. God is calling you here. Like, so I filled out my application on the dotted line. And
did you have tears in your eyes?
Had tears in my
Jesus,
eyes.
I know this is a place.
Yep, I had all that, all the feels. It worked. Their schemes worked on me.
Good job.
But it was all worth it because here we are. Exactly. So I showed up. My first year, I was in a relationship. Shortly after, I don't know, maybe a few weeks after, I end up finding out through someone that my boyfriend did cheat on me while I was gone, literally just a couple weeks. And so I immediately ended it because I have like a no tolerance policy for cheating. Which I don't know. We'll get into that later. But anyways, I had that and I was like, I'm done. Because if I can't trust you in 2 weeks, like we're done. So I ended that and I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on school and, you know, the music program. I'm a worship leader. So I'm like the music program and all of that. Yeah. And I wasn't thinking about finding anyone, meeting anyone. You know, we hear a man that finds a wife. So women shouldn't be finding all that. So I was definitely not trying to look.
That's definitely going to be a podcast.
That's definitely going to be a podcast. But I wasn't looking. I was like, okay, let me just focus. Yeah. And I met this guy. Yep. So you tell me, because he has a story of how I think it's a little bit more intentional in how you met me.
Yeah. So for me, I had already been there for a year. And before I got there, like Britt, I was like, man, I had came to like at least 2, maybe 3 college days. My parents loved to go to Ohio. So we went, you know, and at the end of the day, we were very, very impacted by that ministry at the time. And so I went and I was like, I know God's calling me here. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted my other friends to at least experience it. Now, I knew my friends wasn't called because they weren't the ones that was going to go to Bible college. But they did get a chance to come and hang out. And I remember, like you said, that day, college days, writing my name on that waiver.
They got you.
They got me. I was teary-eyed and everything. And he's calling me here, And so God got me there. And the next, that first year, I remember being in a relationship just like you and a childhood friend. And we grew up together. But I knew as much as I would fight with my mom, she would always say, God has someone for you. I'm like, how you know? And, little did I know the plan that God really had for me. And so that first year, I was just like, man, I just need to take a break from dating. I was just, always wanted to date people, always want to do for people. And sometimes that's what happens. That may be you. Maybe that's another podcast. That's about 4 drops of podcast.
I know, right?
You know what I'm saying? New subjects, right? But sometimes you want to be like just loving on people because you have so much to give. And But at the same time, I was like, what have I given to myself? So I pulled back and was like, this year, I'm going to dedicate my life totally to you, God. No distractions. And it was so crazy because we just had a conversation with our youth about this. We had a youth panel, Valentine's Day has just came and passed. And so we had a conversation literally 2 days ago with our youth. And I was saying, like, now that I'm free, my mom and dad were like, can't date till you're this age. And now I'm free and I don't want to date. Super funny. So I set aside a year of myself to God, didn't date anyone, focused on myself, got better, gave my life to God fully. Because, a lot of times when you're a kid, you kind of do stuff based on what your parents help, lead you into your Christian faith or extracurricular activities. But sometimes it's not always what you want to do. And I knew after that year that I was for sure called by God. I knew I had a time to just spend with myself. But what he was doing was preparing me for this little young lady over here. Because my first couple weeks at school, I had never seen her. I mean, most people came back, but it was like a few new people. And I seen her because we were playing football. That's what happened.
Okay.
Me and my guys, we were playing football on the field that was not fully developed at the time. They had put the goalpost up or whatever. And I don't know. We were acting crazy. We were supposed to be at a picnic with Pastor. And it was just getting started. But we're going to play before we go. And one of my friends caught a touchdown, and then he jumped and dunked on a goalpost, and it fell over.
Oh, my God.
Did I ever tell you this?
Yeah,
it literally fell over.
Yeah.
And so the security guard said, he's like, hey, get off that field. We ran into the dorms just being funny, young guys, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, let's get dressed. We're going to go to this picnic with Pastor. And, it was like, how many? It was like
so
500, 600, 700.
Yes.
It probably was thousands of people, to be honest. And so out of all those people, I remember going up to the concession stand. I thought I was thirsty. Not literally, but I was thirsty. Well, literally. I guess both ways you could say. And I went up to the concession stand, but you couldn't pay with just money. You had to get a ticket. Well, guess who was the ticket lady?
Hey.
This is Pillow Talk. It was Miss Brittany, my wife, Britt. And she was right there, and I was like, can I get a drink? She was like, well, you got to get a ticket. So I got a ticket from her, and I've been getting a ticket from her ever since then. Keep on ticking. But that was at a concession stand, and honestly, I'm so grateful for that day that I actually met my bae.
Oh, that's sweet. So at that time, I was 17, he was 18. And I was about to turn 18 right? Something like that. Yeah. I can't remember the timeline, y'all. We getting older. That's all I can say.
We were some young tenderonis. That's
we were so young. And so from there, after 1 year of Bible college, first off, let me go back. Let me rewind because I'm going to brag on this one over here.
On me?
I'm going to brag on you a little bit. So when he approached me, we talk about this all the time when we first started dating. I didn't know him at all. So when I see people, when I meet people for the first time, see, he already knows what I'm going to say. When I meet people for the first time, I don't really notice certain physical attributes or what they look like. It's like a first time meeting a stranger. You're you're in passing pretty much. So I didn't think I would ever really talk to him again. So he asked me for a ticket. He kind of tried to have a little small talk, but I didn't really pay attention. It was more
big talk.
Yeah. It was more like, hey, so are you new here? Kind of trying to figure out okay, you go to the school, whatever, little small talk like that. And so I just took it as him just being a nice person. I'm a new student. Most people are doing that. So I didn't think of it. But then as I like played it back after we started talking. I don't know, my subconscious picked up, like, because I just remembered, like, oh my God, he looked so dope. He had on like an army fatigue jacket and hat, some Timbs. Like, I could remember all of that.
I was pretty crispy.
Yeah, you looked good. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, you looked good, brother.
But you tell the truth, baby.
So I didn't notice it literally in that moment. I didn't.
I noticed that. I said, yeah, I'm about to holler at Shorty a little later. That was just the start, little tip of the iceberg, you know.
So it's so funny. So yeah, so I noticed after we started to talk, and we've developed like a friendship foundation. And I think that came out of, number one, the situation that I came out of, and also the situation that you came out of as well, with that year off of dating and me, you know, I wasn't trying to jump into anything, just coming out of a situation. Yeah. And so, you know, both of us didn't feel the pressure to rush one another into anything. Yeah. But we liked each other, but we were also just like friends. Yeah. And
established a foundation of friendship, really.
Yeah. And it was so important to us. Like, we would stay up and talk about everything and anything. And we went through a little tug of war. We want to keep it real with the unfiltered conversation. Yeah, we did. You know, we actually just had like an epiphany the other day. We were talking about our origin story, and I didn't even know at the time. See, from my perspective, I'm new, so I don't know anyone. And so I just see him talking to these two girls that were light skinned, and I am of lighter complexion. For those of you watching, you see. And they were beautiful girls, and they were there. Well, one girl came in when I came in, and the other girl was there before me. And so he was, if you want to tell your side of it, you were friends with her.
Yeah, I mean, I was friends with one a semester before you and another girl. And so we had a little history. There wasn't like a lot of history. And it was just very, very platonic. Like, and that's probably why friendship, but it felt like I knew her way more from your perspective. Right. But it really was just like getting to know her as well that year. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think the year that I took off initially gave me a different perspective of how to date. Like, not have a girlfriend. Like, you know, that's two different things. And some people have never been outside of a relationship. And that's why a lot of people struggle, because they don't just have just friends and hang out in different group settings. And, you know, like, I never even did anything with them. You know?
Yeah, like, right.
I never kissed them or did anything. It was just really platonic early on. And I'm so grateful that I did that initially. And I mean, you know, if you're kissing somebody out there, that's cool. You know, no judgment. But I'm just saying, for me, it just didn't get to that place. We were just super cool, the other two girls. But Britt was like, we were developing a crazy friendship initially, like all day. But we both, you could feel the attraction. You could feel the love. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that I pursued it. You know?
Yeah. But the thing that made it like kind of, it almost stopped us from being what we are today, because I didn't have that context. And coming from the situation that I'm coming from, I'm seeing you talk to, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing you're talking to two different girls, then you're talking to me. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not trying to repeat history. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so I literally it's funny, a story. One weekend, it actually happened to be the weekend that his mom came up. I had no idea. I've never met his mom at this point. And we were just friends, but we were feeling each other like hard body for real. And so he would come with me sometimes to my hometown, to Detroit. And my dad was a pastor at the time. And so I would come up there every once in a while whenever they needed help leading worship and all of that. And then SteveVon would come with me as a friend, and my dad would always joke and call him the Black Angel, because he would always make sure that I was safe on the road and just kind of be with me. And so we were like, really, he met my family at this point. We were still friends. We were not dating, though other people thought we were. The whole school thought we were, but we weren't. Yeah, we weren't. We were just friends. And so it would be when we come back, or like I remember one specific story I'll tell you. I'll tell y'all because we just talked about it. I was walking home from choir rehearsal.
Walking back to the dorms.
Yeah, walking back to the dorms. And our dorms were side by side, girls and guys. There was no co-ed situation here. But I was walking home with my friend to the dorms, and I turned the corner, and around the corner is SteveVon talking to one of the young ladies. And that was like, okay, that was like one of my moments where I'm like, what's going on here, And so I think it was that weekend that your mom came, and there was like a big event at the church.
That's what that statement came
from. It was a big event at the church, and his mom came. Yeah. I think it was like, I don't know, some type of leadership conference. My mom would come to
anything they had available.
Yeah, and to see her son as well.
Yeah,
and so she came up from Rochester, New York. That's where SteveVon is from.
Shout out to my mommy, love you.
And so his mom came up, and another friend from the youth group, and it's so funny because I was at Inquire, right? So after the service was over, SteveVon calls me over, and I hadn't talked to him all day because I was upset, and that's why you called me over, because you hadn't heard from me.
I was just checking in.
And so I was like so upset, like he was talking to this other girl. I'm not trying to repeat this pattern, whatever. So he calls me over to the car. I don't know that his mom is literally in the driver's seat of the truck, and our other friend Nikos was in the back seat with you.
Right.
And so he calls me over, and he's like, Britt, come on. So I walk over to the car, and I'm like, what's up? Like cold shoulder kind of vibe. And then do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I don't remember what I said, but I remember what you said.
Yeah, I'm going to say what I said.
What did I say?
I think you was just like, what's up? Like,
good, right?
like I haven't heard from you. What you got going on?
I remember you talking to one of my friends from Rochester. He sung in the choir with you, right?
Oh, yes. That's what it is, too. Yeah, he came up. He asked me to come over, too. So I was like, hey, hey, what's up? How you doing? And I know SteveVon, I'm still ignoring him. Like, And so SteveVon was like, hey, Britt, what's up? Like, I haven't heard from you today. And I was like, yeah, you're on thin ice.
I still get weak every time I think about it. I can see it right now, the picture. Like, I'm in the car in the back seat. My mom pulls up. My window's halfway down. You can see, like, my nose and up and my eyes. And she's sitting right there. I'm thinking, we good. Like, I don't even know what she's talking about. And then she says, you're on thin ice. Yep. I remember saying, like, what? Later on when we started talking about, like, thin ice? What did I do?
And I literally just, like, dropped mic, walked away. No explanation. Just walked away. And then I think, like, when I said it, I remember you and Nikos looking at each other like, thin ice, what? Like shocked. And I'm
not a skater.
Yeah. And I literally just walked away. And then from there, we had the honest, unfiltered conversation where I told you where I was. Like, this is where I'm at. I don't know what we're doing here. I feel like we like each other, but I can't do the whole back and forth thing. And I told him, like, if you want to have fun, I understand you took a year off of dating. If you want to have fun and talk to other girls and get to know them, go ahead. But I'm not in that space, and that's not what I want. So go ahead. And I gave him freedom for a little bit to go ahead and do that.
That's good. Hopefully you young ladies are listening. Give a brother freedom. Because you'll find out if he really like you anyways. You I've heard the statement, pursuit is in desire. Desire is in pursuit. And so, like, at the end of the day, man, I pursued Brittany after that. And we've been rocking ever since. Yeah. But at the same time, it wasn't like a forced thing. It was literally like we were friends. So she was, like, good.
Yep.
And honestly, the thin ice came from the whole conversation of me walking around talking to someone else that she didn't really have context on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we just literally talked about it this week.
It's so crazy.
It's crazy. Like, dang, that's what you was really thinking about.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So from there, after I let him kind of just figure out what did you want to do, he was like, he talked to, he did whatever. I don't know if you want to get into that just yet. Maybe that'll be another podcast or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's when everything changed.
Yeah, so he went on another little trip with another little...
Oh, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did. You go on trips, you hang out with people. Honestly, to be a young minister or, like, be a Christian, the way they set it up at our school was pretty cool to keep us safe, being non-co-ed. But at the end of the day, when I went to go hang out with my friend, this young lady, I got to meet her family, got to meet her pastors. And it just, we realized, honestly, I definitely realized that, like, I'm not really ready for a relationship at this time with this person. And all I could do is try to talk to Britt. I was like, I was there for the weekend. I was just like, hey, I want to talk to my best friend. Like, Brittany became my best friend very quickly, like over that time. And it was like, 2-3 months.
Yeah.
When I came back,
Yeah. Then after that, it was all about me.
Yeah.
But I gave him the freedom to do that, but I didn't want to have that attachment of like, yeah, I'm so serious about you, but you're not about me. You know what I'm saying? And not that was your heart. I don't think, we talked about it, but I just wanted you to be able to have that freedom to figure that out and not have me like putting any pressure on you about it. And I think it's worked out anyway in the way God wanted it to. So here we are. From there, I did a year of Bible college, and that was your second year. We finished up there, and we moved to Detroit to youth pastor together. And at the time, we were still dating. When SteveVon came along with me, God called you, right? I didn't make him go to Detroit with me.
Well, I mean, you didn't tell the very important piece of the story.
What did I miss?
Because it was like one day we were talking in the car, and we had the curfew thing. So you're like, I forgot if it was like Halloween that night.
Oh.
Because I always think it's the 31st of October or the 1st of November, but all I know is it was between those 2 days.
Yeah.
And you asked me the same thing. You had the spirit of Andy Mineo over you. You said, what are we doing?
We ain't moving.
I was like, yeah, what are we doing? I was like,
because at that point, this was after that whole situation. So he wasn't talking to any other girls. It was just me.
Yeah.
And it felt like a relationship, but it wasn't. And I was like, okay, so what's up? You know?
And I was like, what are you trying to say? You want to be my girl? And then she started smiling, all the dimples.
Like
she got some beautiful dimples if you can't see. But honestly, she just started smiling from ear to ear. And I was like, well, you my girl then. And it was just ever since that day, she been my girl. And I've been rocking with her.
That was back in 2005.
Yeah.
Back in 2005. 18? I had just turned 18 or was turning 18 at the time.
Wild. Yep. That's wild.
So from that moment, we've been together, all the ups and downs. We've had ups and downs,
highs and lows.
But we've determined to fight together, fight for our love, fight for our relationship. And I'm just happy that we did. Yeah. So our marriage, we got married. That perfectly segues into why we're talking about being young and married, because we moved to Michigan and we got engaged a little bit after. And we got married at the ages of 19. I was 19 and SteveVon was
20 years old.
Yeah, SteveVon
couldn't even drink champagne at our own wedding.
Exactly.
We wasn't even 21 years old. But Kobe's my favorite player, so he said I do everything young, and that's what I did.
And I think we even had non-alcoholic champagne.
I know, we thought it was so cool.
And we probably were a little churchy too.
Right, yeah.
So that's probably part of it, as well as underage. Hence the theme of our wedding was engaged in underage, which was a popular show on MTV at the time. 2 years. For like a little bit. Yeah. So we got engaged. I remember the proposal, because what happened was he actually asked me to marry him
in college
while we were in Bible college. And we were broke as a joke, college students, but we didn't have a ring or anything. And so when we moved to Michigan, SteveVon, obviously we had got jobs and he got better income. Yeah. And we were actually planning the wedding at this time. And SteveVon actually asked my dad for his approval and everything for me
when I was in college.
In college for us to get married. Why don't you tell him about that a little bit?
Yeah, I was just like, I didn't let him talk, and my father-in-law, he gonna talk. But it was funny. I was just like, hey, I love your daughter, and I'm just so grateful for her being in my life, and I'm just ready. I'm not ready right now. I have everything, but I want to let you know. I just wanted you to know that I want her to be my wife, and I just want to get your approval. And he was like, okay, son. He's like, he said yes, and he was just like, I would ask you to do this, read a couple things, and prepare me as a potential husband. And from there, like, honestly, I mean, I've been happy ever since. Like,
and my mom and dad and my family loved you from like the beginning of meeting you.
Those my people right there.
Yeah. And so, so I think it was just because you were different, because every guy I had dated up until that point were not like in church, into God or anything like that. And so to see you being into God and caring about that, it gave them like this perspective that you could care for me, of course. Like every parent has something that they want their children's spouse to be, a base of what they expect, right? And I think that was very reassuring for them to know that you cared about God, you were into ministry, you know, all of those things. You were mature. You had a solid family unit.
Yes.
So you knew what a marriage looked like.
Our families got connected right away.
Yeah, our families were like family, seriously.
They would drive up
and
from
they
New
still
York
are.
to Detroit and just come to any ministry thing that we had or hang out if they could.
It's like one big, literally one big happy family. And not saying we're perfect or anything, because we are not, but our families just gelled like that.
That's a blessing.
And so we end up getting married at 19 and 20. So obviously, y'all know at 19 and 20, they say, we talk about this all the time, they say your frontal lobe is not even fully developed until you turn 25. And the frontal lobe is your decision making
mechanism.
It's the decision making part of your brain. So we had no clue, y'all, what we were getting into. We just knew we were in love. We knew we had a solid foundation of God and just care for one another and love for one another. But I believe the statement is true. Love is it's not enough.
It's not enough.
And we learned that. Right.
Potential podcast number 5.
But I would say if we're going to break down some takeaways and some lessons, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
The lessons of getting married young is number one for me, and you can go after. The first thing I would say, like I said, love is not enough. You need to have more than love to build a strong marriage. You can have a strong relationship, a strong foundation, but to have this marriage foundation, you're going to need more than just love, because you're going to have dates where you're going to need, you know, your finances to be right, your communication to be right, you know, sex life to be right. Like, let's get into it. Facts. It's unfiltered, you know. And so, you know, there were certain things that, you know, we were clicking on, but we did not know just how to maturity, you know, certain financial things that weren't in place, you know, communication that we could have been talking through. We did premarital counseling, but it's literally like a few weeks before or whatever. Like, it's only like 4 weeks or something like that. It's not enough. And I truly believe, another takeaway, I guess, it could be that you should do counseling all the time, even after marriage. It's not, it
personal,
shouldn't just,
as well as relational together. You know?
It shouldn't just be premarital. It needs to be just marital counseling. Like, in your marriage, you need that because you're constantly changing. You know, I'm not the same person I was when I was that 17-year-old girl you met in Bible college. So I think, and you're not the same guy that you were, the same man that you were when I met you at 18. And so, you know, I feel like you do need someone to help mediate and, you know, help you walk through these things in life and just be in the middle and keep everything at a fair ground. So yeah, those are the first 2 takeaways I guess I could start with is love isn't enough. And to make sure that you always have that counseling piece, even after pre-marriage counseling. What about you, babe?
I mean, I definitely agree with you. Love isn't enough, but I think love is what you need.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I would say it's not enough in the beginning to keep you.
Yeah.
But I believe even now, looking back, over a decade, we 15 years married, young. It's definitely love that's kept it together.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, a little money, a little communication, a little sex could definitely help that thing be even better. And so if you invest into that, I would really believe you'll be successful. And there's some couple other things too. There's some trauma, there's some hurt that you need to walk through.
Talk about it.
And you need to talk about those personal things sometimes with a counselor so you can find words and more so wrap your mind around it for yourself. Because, like, something as simple as you saying, you see me walking around, you didn't even know context to that. So that can make some trauma, or it can cause some resentment from that. Like, you're like, we're married, but that could have been something you're not. But I'm just saying it could have been. But what happens to you when you're younger, or, a broken relationship, like you said, the lack of trust because you got cheated on, like, that can make your relationship very, very stagnant. And we're going to get into some other stuff, but, like, even down to how I was befriending people because of a past hurt of me being brokenhearted in a bad relationship at a young age in like 7th or 8th grade. Brittany noticed it. Then she's like, babe, you need to deal with that. And I was like, I wasn't even mad at it. I was like, you know what I do? And so at the end of the day, that's what counseling will do. It'll help you to pinpoint where those things are coming from, so then you can have language around it.
Yes.
So you can be better communicating
because
those
it
pains.
bleeds. Like
exactly.
It causes different pain points in different relationships. Like that's why that specific incident, I was trying to communicate to you to deal with it, because it was starting to affect other friendships, other relationships that you were trying to establish and build. And it's all because of like our patterns of our past. They can creep into the present.
Yeah, past pain.
Yeah. So we have to deal with those things. And I would say then you hitting on that's a perfect takeaway.
Yeah.
That you have to deal with your past pain. And one thing that I can say about us, when we first started talking, dating, when we first made our relationship official, no, it wasn't when we first, it was after a while of us being in a relationship and dating. We started to be able to like tell if there was going to be longevity in our relationship and if we were going to be more than just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right.
And it was at the point where we were able to be very vulnerable
early,
and share our true testimony. And I know some of y'all don't know what that is, but a lot of people who come from church know what that is.
Right.
You have your cute testimony, like, oh, God got me this new job and, your new car or whatever, right? But then you have your real testimony.
And you know what that real testimony is? It's like this podcast. It's the unfiltered story.
Yes, it's the broken parts of you, the parts that are dark, the parts that you don't want anyone to know about, that you tuck away and you hide, and at a space in our relationship, we had that foundation of friendship and we were like best friends and we were able to come to each other and tell each other stuff that no one had knew. Like I told you something that nobody, I don't even think my parents, nobody, I know, no one knows this. And even to this day.
Yep. And I mean, for me, it led me to a place of at least a start of healing to share with other people, like my parents. And, sometimes that's what you need. And that's what a counselor would do. With helping you with that process, because honestly, you don't want to be walking around with your wounds. Like, not only do wounds bleed, but they blend. So what happens is they don't just get on others, that they blend into your relationships, into your work relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships. And you wonder like why you're so like mad that your friend didn't call you back, but it's because the old dude didn't call you back and he did you dirty, or maybe dad left you hanging. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't trying to get that deep into it, but real talk, that's what usually happens. And if we don't identify it, we will continue to bleed and blend our wounds all over people. But what happens if we get healed and now it's a scar that we can share as a story to help others? That's what this podcast is about. It's not just us being unfiltered and being foolish and just loose with our filtration, really, right? But it's actually using it to help people because of our experiences. That's why we said it's about our experiences and not that we're experts. We want to share that with you here on SteveVon and Britt.
Yes, I love that. So just dealing with your scars or dealing with your wounds to heal and become scars. You want to try to deal with those things. We actually, on our panel that we talked about with the youth, we talked about, instead of looking for the one, become the one.
Yes.
Right. And it's that same kind of concept. And we can do a podcast about that if you guys want. But for now, that's a takeaway that I would say. Getting married early, we probably didn't take care of certain areas where we could have become the one. We were just young and in love and, just full of life and wanting to do things. And we saw purpose together as well. That is another good takeaway too. Find you someone who has purpose that can line up with yours.
Compatibility.
Yes. Purpose, compatibility, all of those things. So we saw that we both wanted to do ministry. We love youth. And so we wanted to do youth ministry together and all of these things, but we didn't get to certain foundational things, or not foundational, I will say, but
principles,
just
I would say.
Principles, and those scars weren't completely healed. They were just being exposed.
Right, exactly.
We just had exposed them to one another. So to actually walk through the healing process together could have probably saved us a couple steps of mishaps. We've had certain things that have happened in our marriage that we've bounced back from, and those things maybe would have been prevented had we dealt with certain things before.
And it's just like, we just come out of COVID. It still feels like it's still hanging around here. in a pandemic, but it's like if you do the preventative care prior to, then you don't have to worry about the effects of it. And I think like with COVID, like it's like it attacks where there is pain, where there's weakness, where there's pre-existing issues, right? Yeah. Well, that's the same thing with your relationships. If you have pre-existing issues that you never dealt with, when a storm comes, when a real challenge comes, it will attack that space and that place. And so you have to be, you may be doing good right now. Maybe doing good in your marriage, maybe doing good in your friendship, maybe doing good dating or whatever. But if you do not put yourself in a position to be preventative in your approach and be proactive, it will come to haunt you when something big comes.
Yes.
And so me and Brittany, through the years and the pain and the struggle and the shame of many different things we face, whether, you know, it was on her part or my part or somebody else's part, at the end of the day, we got to a place where we're like, baby, we love each other. If you need to talk, if you need to share, like, let's do it. If you need some space, let's do it. Like, and we're going to talk about that too. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, figuring out, that took me some time. Yeah. Because I just want to be a fixture. I love my wife. But sometimes she just need a little space. Yes. You know, now I should play my Xbox now. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know? And it's all about maturity. And honestly, I say this all the time, and I guess we could say it for the first podcast, that you're not ready to love until you're ready to learn. And I think that's so key through the years. Like our wedding song was Teach Me How to Love. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to be learning like this. Yes. But I'm so grateful that I get to study you every day, baby. Oh. You know, and it's even the tough times, you know, it's like, how can I crack the code? How can I be better? What am I missing that she's sharing with me that I think I know? Yeah. Sometimes, like you just said, we change. Yeah. So like that's another situation. People are like, you change, you ain't the same. Okay, but do you love them that much to learn them?
Yeah. And do you want me to stay the same? I should be changing, right?
Come on, man. Gotcho pants were in when you were in Bible college. Like I would hope you're not wearing gotcho pants anymore. Exactly. I had a long white tee in my white tee. He did. We're gonna put a picture up so they can see it. Oh my God. Like them tees are so long. Yes. Dresses. But if we were still dressing like that, that would be foolish. Yes. You have to evolve.
I think that's a good takeaway too, is if, of course, we love this quote. SteveVon, God gave him this: if you're not ready to love, or if you're not ready to learn, you're not ready to love. You have to constantly be willing to learn. And I would say, even on the flip side of that, when you notice your partner or your person a friend, whoever that is, they stop being willing to learn you, they've checked out. They've checked out of the relationship. They no longer.
They just unenrolled out of your school of learning you.
Like literally, just think about that, even in context of like real life, right? Like if you are enrolled in a class, it takes you to show up and be ready to learn, right? In the moment that you do not show up, you checked out. You're not in it. And so if you're taking this as a takeaway, you can evaluate like the moment that you stop being willing to learn someone, or the moment that you notice your significant other stop the process of learning you. It's time to evaluate, is this it? Is it time to stop? Because I'm always wanting to learn you. And that's the reason why I brought that up, is because I think that's what has helped to sustain us for so long. You know, we've been married now for how long, babe?
Going on 15 this year. It's been 17 years ago.
Good job, baby. No, I know.
You're challenging me?
Yeah. Okay. A little challenge for both. I'm not good at mental math, but
we've get your mental together.
We've been married for a long time, 15 years. And, you know, it has been us being willing to learn one another over each year, over each month, each day. Something changes. Every 7 years, they say you change. Yeah. And so, you know, we don't know when the 7-year mark started. For real. You know, so like every day, you're changing, I'm changing, and I'm just so willing to learn you because I love you that much. Yeah. And you've done the same for me and to me. We've just been willing to sit down and open up the book. Well, today in the book of SteveVon, right, and learn. Right. You know. And so I feel like for you out there, that's another takeaway. Be willing to learn your partner, learn your mother, your father, your friend, every friendship, every relationship. Yeah, it doesn't just stop at your significant other. It's every relationship that you're in. Be willing to learn so that you can continue to have that love sustained.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, I was just thinking about this, like I used to hear this growing up, people would say, I love you. And like, you don't love me. Love is an action word. And I used to be like, what? Like people like be trying to downplay the words, but really it is action. It's really taking action and applying it to match what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's in general, like you just said, love is a universal thing.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just romantically. Yeah. Right. And so at the end of the day, it is tough.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be tough, right? Yeah. Like at the end of the day, like if we're changing every 7 years, we need to course correct. We need to figure out, okay, but I want to encourage you today or challenge you, don't be a love dropout. Don't drop out of the race or the class or the lesson of learning to love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I love that. So that's our takeaways. I think that's good. We have...
It's our first one, so...
We probably have plenty of other things that we can say, but we'll leave you with that. We didn't want to be too, stereotypical. Yeah, right. Make sure your finances are in order and make sure, you have this in savings. Yeah, okay, you can get that anywhere. You can Google that, right? And those things are important. Very. You should have those. And a lot of those things we didn't have, and we wish that we did, but we were young, just moved.
One day we're gonna tell you about. Was it that?
What?
That meal you made that one time?
Oh Jesus, struggle meals. Yeah, so we're gonna get into all of that when we have a podcast about finances. So that stuff is important. You should have all of that in order. But even more than that, or not more than that, on the same playing field as that, make sure that your emotional intelligence is ready. Make sure that you have a solid relationship and friendship at the base of what you're starting. Make sure that you're ready to learn and love this person, and not just right now, not for a semester, not for a year, because when you take that ring and you commit, this is a vow to forever, eternity. So you're constantly re-enrolling in the class of love. So be committed to that process. I think this was so fun. I had so much fun with this. I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And actually, we want to hear from you. Yes. So we're going to leave a link in the show notes where you can leave a voicemail, a voice message. Cool. Also leave a comment down below if you're watching us on YouTube. But we want to hear you, and we want to hear your voice, and we may even feature you on the podcast.
Come be our special guest.
Yeah, right? Come be our special guest. Any questions you might have regarding relationships, life, ministry, marriage, whatever. We want to answer. We want to welcome you to the table to talk to us, and not like Jada's red table, but just our
just
table.
A real table. It's just a real one.
So thank you guys so much for listening to this first podcast in the first season of SteveVon and Britt Unfiltered. Yes. If this was helpful to you, be sure to go ahead and subscribe on YouTube as well as wherever you listen to podcasts on any platform. And make sure you follow us. If you don't know, we have an Instagram. What is it, babe?
It's at SteveVon and Britt. That's SteveVon, SteveVon, and Britt.
Yes, and we'll have that link down below in the show notes for you. So go ahead and give us a follow. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.
Peace.